This is the FireDawg Podcast.
The views and opinions presented on today's episode are those of the speaker and do not necessarily represent the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.
Welcome, my name is Matt Wilson, and thank you for listening to episode 60 of the FireDawg Podcast. Our guest today just completed a 30-year active duty career in the United States Air Force Fire Protection. He entered the Air Force as a young airman at Scott Air Force Base in 1996, and nearly 3 decades later, in 2025, retired as a fire chief at that very same installation. Along the way, he served at multiple bases, held leadership roles at every level, and ultimately reached the highest rank in the Air Force. Today, we talk about lessons learned early in his career, how his leadership philosophy evolved as he moved from firefighter to senior enlisted leader, and what he believes matters most for airmen, firefighters, NCOs, company officers striving for long-term success. This episode is about perspective, growth, and leadership grounded in experience. It is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast Chief Master Sergeant retired Shanton Russell. Well, Chief, welcome, and we appreciate you joining. I've seen you from a distance. I've watched some of your happenings, through LinkedIn, and appreciate that connection. 30 years in the Air Force Fire Service as an active duty member, that's not something that you see every day. So I did listen to a podcast you did, but I think it's on the fire break. Yeah. I happened to be on that same. He reached out to me, as well. I'm sure he reaches out to a lot of folks, but he reached out to me, and I took advantage of that opportunity. It was cool to talk to him. And speaking with him before I did that, I listened to your episode, and I'm like, we need to get you on. That's a long time to serve in the Air Force Fire Service, and just try to pull whatever nuggets we can out of you during the time that I got you here today.
Yeah.
So
appreciate it.
Just look forward to the conversation, Chief.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Matt, I appreciate you having me. And when I saw the message come through on LinkedIn, actually, that's how Steve, he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and it was like, hey, look, I've been reading your stories and, seeing the things that you got going on. He was like, would you be interested in having a chat with me? That was my first podcast. And that's the one I was referring to earlier when the phone call cut
came in. Yeah.
So, but he's a great guy, and I had a great time talking with him. As a matter of fact, as you know, he brought his vehicles out to Scott Air Force Base while I was there, and we got a chance to see the demo. So that was amazing. His whole team's just a great crew. But then I saw your message come through, and that was a no-brainer. That was a capital YES all day. But that was never going to be a no. We just needed to figure out, obviously the timing to get it, because I know you're busy, and I know you do a lot of these interviews.
Absolutely.
I just don't know how to sit still. So I'm kind of as I should be relaxing. I am relaxing a lot more, but I'm still very busy, and I
can sense that.
do that to myself. Yeah, I do that to myself.
Yeah, I can see that. I see that you now work for Monaco, correct?
Yeah. So I joined the Monaco team November 2nd, and I'm still learning. I've got a chance to make a few trips, and then I have another tour coming up. It's coming up here soon, and I get a chance to get out and see some bases. But I love the team. It's a really great company. Obviously, as you know, and most of our folks know, we're in quite a few DoD bases, and just getting the chance to. I always said that if I go back to work, I wanted to go back to work for a company that where it feels like it's a team, and I want to be able to work for a company that has values, standards, and a clear mission. Right. So if I'm going to work for somebody, number one, if I didn't know the person that I was going to be working for, that was going to be rough. And if I was going into a team where their values and weren't really clear, I'd rather just sit tight, and that team really took me in, showed me the ropes early on, brought me in for a visit. I got a chance to meet most of the leads. So I knew going in on day one that I was going to work for a great company, and a company that takes care of firefighters and our people that work at our military bases. And so that was an easy transition going to work for Monaco, because being a fire chief over my last several assignments, I absolutely know that my guys rely on those alarms, and Monaco's a company that provides them and make sure we keep them serviced. So yeah, it's a good company, and so far it's working out great, great relationship, and so I'm enjoying it.
That's good, yeah, and finding that sense of purpose after a 30-year stint on active duty, you know, that's so important. And I've heard several people who retire talk about that,
Hmm.
listen to some other podcasts, and it's so important to find that sense of purpose and attaching yourself to an organ. If you don't stay within the Department of Defense and whatever it is you do, you got to find that organization that has clear values that they
Yeah,
stick to, have a sense of purpose, and just a good team. It's so important to just be in a tight knit family, you know.
absolutely.
So that's great that you found that.
Yeah,
Well, Chief, I'd like to. Oh, go ahead.
no, no, I was just saying, yeah, I love it. I
Oh,
love that I'm able to still be able, cause I mean, I joined the fire department. I wanted to be in the fire department because I fell in love with fire as a kid, like most kids do, you know, doing a tour, you know, of a firehouse at school, doing one of our little school field trips. And so at the end of the day, being out of the firehouse now, it's a little tough. I miss being around firefighters and fire trucks, you know, and so this job gives me an opportunity to still pop in on the firehouse every once in a
right.
while.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
fist bump some
I see what you did
heroes.
there. I like that. Yeah, and you know, Chief AJ Keel
Yeah,
retired,
yeah,
same thing, kind
yeah,
of involved in a similar,
yeah,
you know, where he can still embed himself in the fire departments. Chief Mark Abrahamson retired, you know, like
right.
they're all kind
Great.
of, they put themselves into positions where they still get to interact with us. And
Yeah,
I think that's
absolutely.
great.
They're great
And
guys. I mean,
there's so much there too, right? Like with you and those guys, there's so much there that they could offer.
mhm,
And so it's just really cool to see just
yeah,
folding that, not just kind of, you could go do whatever you want, but it is cool to see you transition into something that's going to help the fire service and take everything you got up in that
yeah,
brain and, you know, giving it back.
yeah. Thanks a lot for that, man. Yeah.
Well, let's start out by just kind of briefly telling us how long you've been in the Air Force, where you've been. And I know I say briefly, there's a lot of places that you've been. I looked into your bio but yeah, just kind of a tour of the bases that you've been at and
Yeah.
how long you've been in.
Yeah, so I started I left home on the 22nd of November of 1995, and I took off to our home where most of us began, Lackland. So I started off there, did BMT, left and headed on out over to Goodfellow. When I joined, excuse me, at the MEPS, all of the paperwork said Chanute. Everything said I was going to Chanute, right? So
Yeah, I was going
I'm
to ask that.
I'm thinking I'm headed to Chanute Air Force Base, and I'm
Hmm.
telling my family, "Hey, I'm just not going to be very far. I, I might be able to pop in on the weekends, you know, and see you guys."
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm going to be very close to home, being from Illinois. And as I'm at BMT and I'm talking to folks and go, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a firefighter." Yeah, and one of the instructors said, "Well, yeah, you're just gonna be right up the road in San Angelo." And I'm like, "No, we're in Chanute." And so he goes, "I'm pretty sure Chanute's closed," but the two of us were so certain that he had to go and check. He said, "Let me go and check." He left. He went and checked. He came back and he said, "I'm sorry, man. You're going to San Angelo.
Oh man.
You getting on a bus to Goodfellow after this." I was heartbroken, so
Were
heartbroken.
you?
But
I imagine.
yeah, I was thinking I'm going to be close to my family still. You know, maybe
Right. Right.
I didn't know anything about the Air Force. You know, none of us really truly do going in know
Yeah.
exactly what we're going to face. So I'm still thinking that there's a chance. You know, I'm still going to see family. Like I'm going to be going home on the weekends. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I
Right.
knew for a fact
Nope.
that
Central
they said
Texas,
the
middle of
exit.
nowhere.
I wasn't seeing anybody until that journey was over. So get to Goodfellow, and then of course, wow, you know, I had a great time. So we had pretty sure we had 6 blocks back then as well. I know it's changed now, but back then, it was 6 blocks, and so I started out just as we all do, finished up Goodfellow, left there, and then, my first base was Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. So I got to Scott, which was amazing. I didn't know that I would get Scott. There were no guarantees or anything like that made. Just so I put it on my list and I got it. So I came home. I did a year and about maybe 3 months at Scott, and then took off for Yokota Air Base, Japan, and I did 6 years at Yokota. Left Yokota as a staff sergeant, and then headed to Goodfellow again, where I got to teach at the Fire Academy for 5 years. I taught airport, which was Block 6 at the time, for about a year and a half. And then the rest of my time was spent teaching hazmat in Block 5 at the time. I left the schoolhouse and took off for Lajesfield, Portugal. Enjoyed the Azores, left the Azores after I think it was 15 months, 14, 15 months. And then I only got to do 8 months on station though, because I deployed out of there. And at a time when we really didn't really normally deploy out of lodges, I deployed out of lodges. And so I only really got 8 months on the island. I felt robbed, but I did enjoy the 8 months that I did get to spend. I had a lot of fun. And then I left lodges for Spangdahlem, did 2 years of Spangdahlem, Germany, and then headed to RAF Mildenhall after that. I apologize for the brief pauses, but I'm 52 and the brain is trying to remember all of these places and the timings and everything. So bear with me. So let's
I didn't
Spain.
even notice any pauses, Chief. You're
Oh
good.
my gosh, we got to Mildenhall. This is a workout right now, a mental workout. Got to Mildenhall and did 4 years there. Left Mildenhall and took off for Joint Base Andrews. Did 2 years at Andrews. Then took off for Korea. I got to be the fire chief there for a year. I was at Kunsan. Then left Kunsan and went to McConnell, Wichita, Kansas. From Wichita, Kansas to Minot and did 2 years at Minot. From Minot to Al Udeid, was permanent party there, and then from Al Udeid to back to Scott, the place where it all started, and got a chance to be the fire chief, where I was a young knucklehead airman getting yelled at. And actually, my office where I ended up working in used to be the prevention office, where I got yelled at as a kid, like straight up in your face. Yelled at, and I got a chance to work as the fire chief in that same room to finish up my career. So that's how it started and kind of where it finished, and a testament to what goes around sometimes comes back around.
Oh, that's crazy. Full circle moment.
Yep, full circle, boomerang, whatever you want to call it. Yep, that's what I was blessed to kind of endure. But it's been a long journey. Of course, a few deployments sprinkled in over those years. Finished up at 30 years and 9 days, effective on 1 December. So yeah, been retired here for a few weeks officially. Got my retirement ID cards on the way in the mail. I haven't gotten them yet, but they should be showing up soon.
Got that retirement beard too.
Yeah. And this thing, I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I like not having to get up in the morning to shave, because I did bump. I was one of the folks that used to bump up every once in a while. I had to endure that though.
Yeah.
And I had to do what I had to do to take care of my face and make sure that I was within regulations. But man, I'm telling you, just to not have to get up in the morning and shave. That's the reason it's still here, and it's because I'm lazy and I don't feel like cutting it off. But I also don't want to get back to that place where I was irritated and bumping up again. So I'm like, if I shave it, it's gonna stay shaved. It's never coming back, or I'm just gonna keep it, and I'm never gonna show my baby face again. I'll just leave it. Right now, happy with it. Most importantly, the wife is happy with it. So
is she?
It ain't going.
That's all that matters.
He loves it, so that's it. Care less what anybody else thinks. She loves it. Yeah.
I think about that with haircuts too. You know, I've coming in as a young person, like many of us do. You know, you never have opportunity to cut or let your hair grow out. You know, and grow the beard, of course. And so I always wondered, like, what would I look like with some long hair? You know, and of course, every once in a while you get to grow a little bit of a beard if you go on a lot of leave or something like that. But so that's cool. Good to see you have an opportunity to do that stuff, and good to hear that the wife likes it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, full circle starting from Scott and then getting chewed out and then showing up, and that's your office.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Crazy, absolutely.
And I'm a big nostalgia guy. I don't know. I think I'm a student of history, and I love history, right? And so I think about the history of myself sometimes, and so I have the opportunity to travel a little bit in the job that I'm in now, and just went back to my first base recently on a work trip, right? And just being there and like looking at all the buildings and seeing where I used to stay in the dormitory, or, you know, thinking about the calls that I went on, and then interacting with the firefighters that are there now. Man, I used to be, and I just couldn't wait to tell them that, you know, I'm like, I was here, you know what I mean? I was you, and look where I am now. And it's just, it's got to be a really cool feeling.
I think it's good to see, as I can see some of your nostalgia and memorabilia in your office there. You know, there's something to be said for having certain things in your office. And I was one of those fire chiefs that made sure that my office had my journey present, because There are times when I think a lot of folks feel like when they come into the Air Force that the Air Force just started. It just started the day I showed I just showed up. This organization is only 2 years old. This organization is old. It's been around for a while, right? I'm in 1947, but we're one of the younger branches. But at the end of the day, that's a long time ago. And we've had a lot of things that our Air Force has accomplished since then. And I think it's important that folks get a chance to see folks who paved the way for them, just as we got a chance, right? I'm sure you had that opportunity to bump into some old heads that paved the way for you, and folks that worked at departments that you worked in, or a stranger that just popped in one day and was like, "Oh, I used to be the fill in the blank, right? Crew chief here, or I used to be the assistant chief here. I was the fire chief here once upon a time, right?" And you see those guys and you're like, wow. You're like, wow, that's crazy. Wow, this guy was a fire chief here back in 1970 something. I was born in the 70s, So at the end of the day, I always found it important too when those folks visited to treat them like special guests when they showed up. Because they're not going to be there every day, but they did
Right.
for a few moments decide to take some time out of their day to come back and take a trip to see their path, a part of their path. And so I like to take folks around, and I would personally take them around the station and show them things and answer questions for them, and then maybe pawn them off to a young airman so that they can get a chance to see who's the young folks that are working there now. So yeah, I think that's important as well. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, with the memorabilia and this in your office, and I'm the kind of person who in my head I don't want to hang these things up. I don't. It comes. Some people call it like, what is it called? Like a I love me kind of room or presentation. But when I put this stuff up, I think about what other people think when they come in and see it. Like, it's just a representation of my career, the places that I've been. It's a conversation starter. I think that's cool, and you could talk through the places that you've been, the things that you've seen.
Yeah.
And with those old heads, you're connected. We're all connected in some way. And I just think that's cool. And they care so much about it. I mean, why else would they show up? You know what I mean? And so it's a big part of their life. They gave, the better part of their adulthood to the fire service and to the Air Force. And it's like, I'm going to take the time to talk to them and try to pick their brains, and just to make sure that they know that they're still welcome. I think that's cool.
I agree.
I'd like to highlight a little bit about, so again, it's not too often now in 2025, we're talking to people who were in the fire service in the 90s or in the Air Force in the 90s. So what was it like as a young airman, young firefighter in the mid to late 90s?
Wow. So it was, I'd say it, and folks that were around then will know what I'm talking about. It was crazy, but it was a good crazy. There was hazing. There was a lot of hazing back then. You were most certainly going to be brought into the fold when you showed up, and I could get into stories about the stunts that we pulled. A lot of times they led to an airman being arrested by security forces who sometimes might be in on it, and arrested. Not really arrested, but a fake arrest, but the airman wouldn't know that. Yeah, but so many crazy things that could mean your shirt getting hung up in the top of the stalls, or your hat being frozen in ice, in the freezer someplace. That can mean you being tied up and having mustard and ketchup poured all over your head. And if you complained about it and told somebody, "Don't touch my stuff. This is it. This is the last time this is gonna happen. You better not." Do it again. You just open yourself up for about another several months. So at the end of the day, I will say that nobody bothered you back then unless they liked you. If no one was messing with you in the firehouse, chances are they didn't like you, right? So the more they messed with you, the more they liked you.
That was a good sign.
I got messed with a lot, and there were times, I don't know, maybe it was because I'm a little guy and they knew I couldn't do nothing about it. I couldn't fight back. But at the end of the day, and I did a lot of barking. And so, they messed with me left and right.
Oh, yeah.
But, and then I became part of that, but that was part of the camaraderie, some of the things we did, a lot of those things, of course. That stuff hasn't happened in many, many years, as far as I know, in firehouses. But probably it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But I will say that that was something that that was prevalent. What else was prevalent was we got a chance to eat dinners together. We had an opportunity to, because a lot of us had open bays or we had partition walls and curtains, so we were always together. During our downtime, we were together. Of course, we didn't have Wi-Fi in the station then. It's crazy to think of now. A lot of us didn't have cell phones. So we had pagers, and that's how they got a hold of us. Your pager went off, you get in touch with the department or show up to work. Yeah, that's how it was. But inside the firehouse, it was a very close-knit bond. We showed up in the morning. We got our details out the way. Our boots were shined and polished for the most part, for those of us who chose to do that. And then uniforms were typically pressed because we wore the BDUs. And as far as our gear, most departments, we had the silvers that we wore back then. And so we didn't have a chance, the proximity gear. And then later, of course, we got a chance to have both. And then, of course, we got rid of the prox gear altogether. But it was very close-knit. Our civilians, I remember them to be very knowledgeable, no nonsense. You did what they told you to do. But our senior NCOs and our NCOs, even like some of our senior airmen, I just remember them took a longer time to get promoted. I mean, some senior airmen would be in up to 10 years if they didn't get promoted. They got out and they give them a stipend. There were people who it took many times for them. You saw old staff sergeants, right? You would think that they were in a government or something. No, they were active duty because it took that long to get promoted. But you had a lot of experienced individuals, right, because of that. So a staff sergeant, or a senior airman, you could find they'd been in the Air Force for many years, and they had a lot of experiences. So when those guys spoke, they spoke with knowledge. They were technicians. They knew what they were doing, and so that we, as airmen, we got the benefit from those types of individuals. But the biggest takeaways from the 90s, I would say, camaraderie was very, very strong. And I would say training, we got to do quite a bit of it, and it was taken very serious. You didn't have all of the technology, and so we had to think outside the box, and there had to be unique ways of getting after things, and we figured it out. We decided how it was going to be done because we didn't have all the answers at our fingertips. It was an interesting time. Yeah, definitely missed the 90s. It was a lot of fun. For an airman, though, it was very structured. I will say discipline was another piece of it. I would say you had more opportunities to handle things in the firehouse, where today a lot of things that happened in the 90s that were handled at the flight level, most of these things have automatically get squadron commander visibility, and folks are out of the Air Force. In the 90s, some of the things that you see folks getting in trouble for today, during that time, we could have saved probably a lot of careers, I would say. Yeah.
But it's cool to.
I'd have been kicked out.
Oh, really?
About 7 times, or 7 times for, thank God I came in the 90s and I got a chance to get slaps on the wrist.
Where there's no social media and Airmen NCO, Senior NCO Facebook page.
Yeah, 100%. Back then it was like, come here, man, what is wrong with you? Figure it out. Yeah, so I had a chance to. Yeah, there's a call coming in. Yeah. Did I not tell you that my wife is just upstairs and she probably would call me?
She's going to give you a call.
First phone call from my wife.
Yeah. Right there with you, I'll tell my family, hey, I'm recording a podcast, and hey, they'll knock on the door, they'll open the door up.
Thought I'd made that clear, but hey, she does her thing. Yeah.
Well, how cool is it to see the evolution of the Air Force, 30-year evolution, at least, not the entire evolution, and the fire service too. And I think about, if SAC Pro Board came online in the mid 90s, the fire truck, the evolution of the fire trucks, the evolution of how we interact with each other, the cell phones coming into play, the internet coming into play, computer-based training and things of that nature. Really cool to be able to see the evolution of that. And even I've seen some of it in my career, early in the thousands coming in, and some of that hazing that you mentioned earlier. I mean, that was just normal. Like, here it comes. Everybody tells you, like, hey, it's coming.
We didn't call it. We didn't call it hazing.
Camaraderie. Yeah.
Somebody decided to call it hazing, like somewhere along the line. Hey, hazing's bad. It's like, what are you talking about, man? We're just firefighters.
Yeah.
Giving each other crap. That's all it is.
Well, So I want to get into your leadership philosophy and things like that. I see a lot of what you put on LinkedIn, and I'd like to capture some of that here, definitely. But before I get into that, I'd really like to know what in the early part of your career, is there one, two significant events, maybe a person, a place that you were stationed that inspired you to continue on? Because I mean, it's not every day you see somebody who does 30 years. So was it something maybe at each interval you're like, I'll do another 3, I'll do another assignment, I'll do another 5, whatever it was? Or was there just kind of a defining moment for you in your career?
Yeah, so I came in to do 4 years. Let's be clear. I came in to do 4 years. And once I got in, after that yelling at that talking to that I had at Scott that I told you about in the prevention office, I was ready to get out after that. I was like, I'm done with this. So thankfully I had a couple of good friends who were older, senior airmen who were kind of mentors at that time, that pulled me aside and said, "Hey, look, man, um, yep, probably was not what you wanted to hear, and you probably not used to folks talking to you like that. But just hey, look, don't be ready to write off the Air Force just because of that interaction." So that kind of helped settle me down a little bit, and I kind of took me off the ledge. And so I said, "Hey, look, I'll get through my time." But one of my friends told me, "Hey, look, there's so many other places out here. There's bases in Japan. There's places Panama, all over the place. And why don't you go and update your dream sheet and put in for something?" So I did. Again, came in to do 4 years. Put 8 bases on my dream sheet. Yokota was 7th on my list. I got Yokota. I take off and get to Japan and absolutely loved it. So when it came time for me to reenlist, I did. I was enjoying it where I was where I was at. So I decided to stick. I reenlisted there, and then I extended twice, which is how I ended up getting the 6 years. Left and got to the schoolhouse, and I was going to get out at the schoolhouse, made tech. Once I made tech, I decided I was still getting out. And I was that guy
really?
that a bunch of folks were, yeah, so Halliburton, Brown and Root had the jobs they were giving
Oh
us.
yeah. Yep.
One of those guys that
Yeah.
had an
Heart of GWAT.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I was one of the guys that had a friend working and was like, "Hey, look, man, we get you hired." I talked to their HR and they were ready to give me a job, and I was like, "All right, I don't need that tech sergeant stripe." And then I had people going, "Oh, you getting out? You took my stripe from me. You did this," and I'm like, "I didn't really take your stripe." So at the end of the day,
That's on you to make it.
you got to make it, brother. So I ended up deciding. Someone made a comment, "Hey, man, the only thing I don't like," it was a buddy of mine who was a contract. He said, "is they sometimes hold that over your head that they can let you go for any reason. So you'll probably be okay because you work hard, take care of business, but I just don't like how they hold that over your head that they could fire you whenever." And when he said that, I was just kind of like, I was thinking about stability. I had my wife, I had kids, so I was like, I need to make sure that I'm able to take care of my family, and I don't want to go into something where I'm being threatened to be fired. So I'm like, you know what? I'll stick with the Air Force. So I decided to stay, and I took the tech sergeant stripe. Then you got to decide when you're at that halfway mark, whether or not, and that was getting close to that halfway mark for me. And I decided I'm going to get over the hump. So with that, I knew I was going to probably stay to 20. So to answer your question, intervals, overtime, enlistment by enlistment. After I got to Yokota, I said basically, and re-enlisted the first time, I said I'll take an enlistment by enlistment and see how my life is going and if this is still working. I looked at my relationship with the Air Force as just that, as a relationship. If the relationship is going well, hey, let's keep this thing going. If the relationship is no longer going well, because we're in it together, Air Force, you do things for me, I do things for you. We keep this thing going. We're in love with each other. Yeah, great. And when we start to lose that respect for each other, you don't want me in the way that I am, I don't want you the way that you treat me, then we part ways. And so I looked at it like that. But then there was also a defining moment piece as well. And I was at Spangdahlem Air Base, and I had a Chief Master Sergeant there by the name of Richard Lane. He had a conversation with me after I made Master, and he said, congratulations basically on making Master, but if you think for a second that you're going to make Senior and Chief, you got to decide whether you're going to be all in, whether you're going to be one leg out into something else and one leg into the Air Force. You're gonna have to be all in. And so taking that he gave, I mean, I was wanting to be a rapper back then at that time in my career, you know. So I was,
Oh, really?
and I come from a musical family and have a
Oh,
musical
okay.
background. So I still had that in me. And so as a hobby, I took a lot of time, you know, writing and producing songs and things like that. And so I was kind of, hey, half of me is with other things and the other half is with the Air Force. And so after that discussion with Chief Lean, I did have to really kind of decide, hey, look, what do I want to do? And his words kind of came true as soon as I got to Mildenhall. So as soon as I showed up to Mildenhall, I was Master Sergeant, brand new Master Sergeant. I literally sold on my stripe during my final out, the day of my final out at Spangdahlem. So no one at Spang had ever seen me as a master, and no one at Mildenhall ever seen me as a tech. So I show up day one. The deputy was like, hey, I thought you were a tech sergeant. I said, I was. I said, until I sold on the day of my final out 2 days ago. And so, but with that, everybody expected a Master Sergeant output. Everybody.
Right.
I don't care who it was I was talking to, whether I was talking to an airman, a civilian, the fire chief, who was Chief Scott Knupp at the time when I got to Mildenhall, whether it was those folks or whether it was folks in the squadron, when they see the Master Sergeant stripe, they expected Master Sergeant work. And so for me, I knew I had to get after it a certain way, and that changed kind of the trajectory. Long answer, but I think that I like to tie it to being a staff sergeant for the first time. You were an airman. You had all these other airmen, maybe were your friends, and now you're getting ready to supervise some of them. And now you're an NCO. You're learning what that means. But then you become a tech, and now you're supervising staffs. I mean, you just want some of your buddies are staffs now, you know. But now you got to supervise them, and then you're a master, right? And you keep this thing going, and eventually you're a senior master sergeant supervising master sergeants, and who supervise NCOs. And as the responsibility grows, right, you have to move different. And so I learned that as I was moving differently, I was changing, and I needed to change, and there were changes for the better. And those things kept me going because the more people I was responsible for, the more I tried to do things to make their lives better and to challenge them to be better. And the more I did that, they also fed me. My airmen fed me and gave me the fuel. I don't know if many of them knew it. I did tell some of them that, but they gave me the fuel to keep on going. When I saw them achieve things, when I saw them overcome obstacles or personal challenges, it made me want to continue doing what it was that I was doing. And so that's what got me through 30 years. Not from the beginning, not from the beginning. There were times when I was going to part ways and I was gonna give up and quit. And I'm glad that I didn't. But what kept me going over, I would say the last third of my career was or I say the fourth quarter. Let's just do that since we talked football a little bit earlier. The fourth quarter of my career, I guess I would say what kept me going was the Airmen, and that was the only reason. That was the only thing that pushed me, because obviously I could have gotten out. I could have retired at 20. I could have retired at 24, 26. I chose to just keep going because I was continuing to enjoy what I was doing in the Airmen. I felt like the Airmen, I could still benefit my Airmen. And until the Air Force said, okay, oh man, get on out of here and grow that beard.
It's time. Yeah. It's quite the journey. And I thought of a couple of things as you're speaking there. One of them is there's like a sense of obligation for me personally as you cross those thresholds into each rank or to the NCO tier, senior NCO tier, let's call it company officer, senior fire officer tiers. Like the higher you go up, the more I've felt of a sense of obligation to those firefighters, you know, underneath me. And it's like, I kind of want to stick around for them. One of the things that has kind of kept me, you know, there's several things that kind of keep you motivated as you move on through the career, but it's like, hey, if we go to war with a peer adversary, which is, you know, a lot of what they've been discussing over the past handful of years, I kind of want to be there, not because they need me, but because I have a lot to offer to the team. And I want, just as an American, as an airman or whatever, or the firefighter, like there's a lot invested in my, you know, into into my brain. And so I feel a sense of obligation to give that back. You know what I mean? So that's one thing. Another thing that I picked up on there was, we look at a 30-year chief master sergeant or a chief master sergeant in general walking around or whatever, or a fire chief, and you think that they hung the moon and that they've got it all figured out and dialed in. And there's so many people that have touched you throughout your career and so many decision points. It goes to show none of us really have it figured out. I would say almost none of us, maybe some of us, maybe some of the rare ones out there, but it takes people, man. It takes people around you, to stand on and to get to the next levels.
That is the golden nugget, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used to tell my guys, like, hey, look, nothing is more important than you. Nothing is more important than you. Like, the fire station is not more important than you because I have it because of you, right? We have the station to house you. The trucks are not more important than you because without you, they just sit in the stalls. They're static displays. They're not going anywhere. I need your butts in the seats because what you have to offer is more important than anything else. All these other things are tools. They're tools and equipment and facilities that we have to take care of you so that you can get after the mission. So I always told my firefighters, you guys are the most important resource. You're the most important thing to me. And of course, I've made sure that folks that were on the leadership team with me, when it comes to notifications and anything happens with my people, I want to know about it. I was one of those guys that got a little upset if I find out somebody's hurt and you didn't tell me about, oh, gee, we didn't want to buy. No, you will bother me with that one because that's something that affected one of my. Now you get to take care of it as a leader. Go ahead, do what you got to do, but you got to let me know about it and tell me that something happened with one of my folks, right? So I took that very seriously, but the relationships, right, that we have, good, bad, what have you, right? Those relationships help shape who we are. Even the ones that I would say are toxic. Toxicity was not tolerated. That was one of my big no's, right? And I made sure it was on my slides when I briefed on day one. Toxicity, not toxic leadership, toxicity. If you're toxic, no one wants to be
Toxic
around
followership.
You suck the air out of the room when you walk in because of the way you are and the way you treat people. I don't want you. You can't be here. And I made sure my commanders knew that and that they supported me with that. I can't fire you and kick you out of the Air Force, but you ain't going to have a home in the firehouse unless you can fix your attitude and your behavior. Then there's a place for you. If you can't fix your attitude and your behavior, there is no place for you. We're going to find somewhere else for you because you can't be a part of this. I can't have this atmosphere and environment because that's part of the fire chief's job, right? Is to make sure that the environment is one that your folks feel safe in and can operate in. But if you got folks that are toxic, but even those folks, right? Think of a bully. How do you know you're tough if you never had anybody bully you? Now, the moment that bully steps up and you punch him in the face and he goes away and cries, you're like, whoa, well, he wasn't as tough as I thought he was. And I'm stronger than I thought I was. So even those toxic relationships sometimes that we encounter in our service, in our business, in life, even some of those relationships help us to figure out who we are and how we need to move. It's not always the best, the friends and those folks who are motivating us with positive words and inspiring us. Sometimes it's those knuckleheads that get on our nerves, that go against the grain. We have to know how to maneuver around those folks, through those folks, past those folks.
Sometimes you hear, I've learned more from the leaders that I didn't like than those that I did, so I think that's a great point to connect with what you just said there. And to your point about the most important person is that firefighter, that person within the team. It's something that you don't understand. Even, even into the senior NCO tier, there's times where maybe you think you're insignificant, but I said this to somebody just recently and I can't remember who it was, but every time the truck rolls or you showing up at roll call, like that's a significant thing. And not to hand out participation trophies, but you showing up and you being there on watch, you're the tip of the spear. You can operate the truck. You're going to make it out. Just being there for the public to me is a significant thing. And even the more insignificant calls, just going through the motions and being there for the public when they need you, in whatever capacity that is, that's a significant responsibility. So
Yeah, it is. And I used to also say, and I still hold this true. It's the youngest firefighter. So when I talk about firefighters, yeah, I do mean the people. I don't care if you're youngest or the oldest. Anyone in that firehouse, right? If they're my responsibility, I care about them. I want them to be successful in their role. But I always told my leadership teams that it always starts with that youngest firefighter, that tailboard firefighter, fresh out of tech school. That's where my primary focus is. Not on you, deputy. Not on you. I love you. Yeah, but no, you're not my primary focus. You make a lot of money. You know what the hell you've been through you got all kinds of experience. I ain't worried about you. You better know how to take care of business, right? But this kid though, who just came in, he doesn't know anything, right? We got to give him his gear, make sure it fits. We got to make sure his boots aren't too tight and he doesn't have size 10 toes curled up inside a size 8 boot, right? So we got to make sure that we got our folks taken care of. They got the proper gloves, everything fits properly. Cuz they're going to be the ones doing the hardest work. They're going to be the most vulnerable, the least knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
They are trusting you more than they even know, right? Your airmen that don't know how to do an EPB when they first show up,
Yeah.
they don't know. They probably don't even know what it stands for.
Right.
So they're trusting that someone's got that stuff figured out for them, right? And so I got frustrated whenever I found out that certain things weren't figured out for my youngest airman, but we all had it figured out for ourselves as we moved up the chain. So I always started there. That pyramid was turned upside down.
I
And
think
so
that's
those
an
of
excellent
us
approach.
that are at that tip, we were paying attention to the folks that were, I guess, at the base of
Yeah.
that pyramid. Another thing that I always like to do, because this part of that people part, you'll hear your airmen say, I'm just an A1C, or I'm just a senior airman. So I know I'm not a chief, and I would stop them right there. I'd say, listen, man, there is no me without you. And I need to make sure needed to make sure that my airmen understood their role. There is no lesser. I'm not higher, you're not low. There's no low ranks. Every single one of them is essential. You can't have chief stripes without A1C stripes. You can't have them. They don't exist. You take out the A1C stripes, you're not a chief master sergeant. So every single one of them is vital to making it to chief, right? So at the end of the day, once I would say stuff like that, there's no me without you. There's no my stripes without your stripes. And I'd ask them, you get that? And they said, oh, yes, chief. And it changed the way they saw themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, the people part was the biggest piece to me. And that's kind of why I moved the way that I move. That's kind of why I share the things that I'm sharing now. I wish I had more of that. I had some of it. I got a lot of it later in my career, because then the closer you get to leaders, senior leaders, the more you learn from them. Our young airmen aren't close. So as a senior leader, I had to make myself available to them. So I went to them. And so that's why I did things like Chiefs Chat, where I sat in the room and just talked to them. It was a little bit more formal in the beginning when I did them as a senior NCO, master sergeant. But then as I became a chief, I stopped the slides and I just went into the room and sat with them and said, okay, let's talk. What's on your minds? And of course, there's always hesitation in the beginning, but once they see the format play out and they get used to it, then you can be 2 hours inside the room because your guys are just asking questions and want to just chop it up with you and have discussions. So I had to make myself available to them when I know that there's so many different levels of supervision in between us.
One thing that I hear a lot, you hear sometimes, is they're America's sons and daughters, right? Those airmen, soldiers, sailors, and so you have a sense of responsibility as a kind of a father, and so you feel that father figure role, or that brother figure role, or uncle figure role, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, just to encapsulate kind of everything you said, you're a bit of a father figure to these people, or a mother figure, or whatever it is, and it's just so important to take that seriously, because yeah, it's different when you join the military. If those who don't join the military typically probably stay around home, stay around family, see them on the weekends.
Yeah.
These 18, 19-year-old kids they're joining the military and going to Europe, going to Japan, going somewhere away from home, where they don't know, they're just learning how to tie their boots. Of course, they don't know how to speak up if their toes are curling up inside these boots that don't fit them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it's important to take that role seriously.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
I think this is a good segue into your leadership approach and philosophy. I mean, we've kind of, I got a sense of, probably what that is, but I'd really like to give you the opportunity to highlight that. Just as long as you've been in, and I'm sure your leadership approach has kind of evolved, but yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I came in at a time when everyone was mission first, mission first, mission first, mission first. It's what mattered, right? And it was always the mission. What's changed over the years for me is that philosophy, that mission first philosophy. You'll never hear me say mission first. The mission has to get done. That's not lost on me. It is a must that we accomplish our mission, right? Or you're not sitting where you're sitting, and I'm not sitting where I'm sitting, drinking coffee. It's good coffee this morning. I made it myself. So the mission matters, or America's not what it is. And we're safe. We got our issues that we have to work through as Americans, in politics or what have you, right? But at the end of the day, we're safe. Uh, and we have our military members that keep us safe. I'm thankful. I did say to my folks that before I left that I'm going to hang it up and I'm going to sit back and I'm going to be in the stands applauding you because you are playing the game that keeps me and my family safe from here on out. But people first is what has been my leadership philosophy over I would say probably the last 7 years. People first, people always, and the mission will thrive. And that's how I lead. So when I come in, I want to know who it is that I'm working with. I want to know who my deputy is. I want to know what makes them tick. I let people run their programs. I give them the expectations. I do not micromanage them. Micromanagement means I don't trust you. And so if I don't trust you, then I'm going to do it myself, or I'm going to tell you exactly how to do it and make sure that there's no room for error. But you and I know, Matt, that if we don't make mistakes, we don't learn. So your folks have to have the opportunity to make mistakes, not the same ones over and over and over again, but they got to be able to figure it out. And in the figuring it out, sometimes you're going to make a wrong turn. Sometimes you're going to knock something over. You're going to make a mistake, but you learn and you get better. And that's where the experience comes from. So if I don't have a people first approach and it's just mission first, then mission first means people second, third, fourth. I don't know. What are the
Not
people
first.
fall
Yeah.
in, right? So at the end of the day, people first means that is my focus. I build good people. I build great people. I will have great programs. I will have a successful mission. And so that has been my philosophy. Of course, there are ways to peel back the onion on that, but really at every level of our business, whether you're talking a young airman tailboard, whether you're talking a civilian or dispatch or ECC, NCOIC or operator, no matter who it is that we're talking about in our business, right? If I pour into that individual, into that person, now just imagine every single, and they take it seriously and they're coachable and they buy in to that mindset. Think about all of the different areas of your organization and how successful that organization becomes, right? With a people first mentality. And so that's why, and some folks think that that's leadership, but listen, they get to think that because they are walking their own journey and they are leaders in their own right who are getting experience. I've learned that that's not the best way for me. They got to learn what works for them. And if yelling and poking people in the chest and putting your hand in their face and screaming to the top of your lungs works for you, then go for it. But I would tell you that used to be me, right? As a tech sergeant, I'm telling you that used to be me back in the day. I tried that.
Well, it might have worked back in the day,
It worked at moving the needle, maybe, right?
Sure,
But did it
sure.
work
Yeah,
for
autocratic leadership styles, and you can look back in history. I mean,
100%?
watch movies, read books about, I don't know, the Civil War era, Revolutionary War era. Like, you did what you're told.
You did what
And
you
in
were
some
told.
cases, if you didn't, if you're insubordinate, you could be put to death. You know what I mean? Like we're not in that era anymore, right?
It worked for results, right?
It was fear-based leadership,
100%. It didn't work for building people. And if you
right?
did build
It worked
people,
for results.
you
Absolutely.
built
It was
the type of
transactional. Yeah.
person that did that type of that same thing.
Yeah.
Then you want to tie that into suicides? You want to tie that into folks leaving you and not wanting to be a part
Yeah.
of your business anymore? You can tie
Yeah.
all of that
Retention
into
and
100%.
absolutely.
Or you can tie it into someone who says, you know what, I learned. Doesn't mean you can't challenge people. Doesn't mean that you can't push people. It doesn't mean you can't
Yeah.
have a very deliberate conversation and go, hey, man, did I not explain to you what it was that we were doing? Okay, so what happened here? I told you what I needed. This is completely left. And when we were supposed to be going
Mhm.
right, I need you to explain to me what happened. Talk me through your process. Explain to me what happened. They explain it, and I say, okay, got it. I understand where we went wrong, but I want to make it very clear. This can never happen again. Can
Mhm.
never happen again. We on the same page? We're going to,
Mhm.
okay. All right, sounds good. All right, you back in the driver's seat. I expect to see better from you moving forward.
Right.
Good? Good to go? Good to go. All right. How did that kind of a conversation, what does that do for the individual? That individual now has a little bit of clarity. They're going to go back. They know I could have probably yelled, but I wasn't a punk. I made it very clear what I wanted, and I used choice words.
Mhm.
And that person walked away with hopefully an understanding of what it is that I need from them. I do that differently. When they walk away, they're not thinking about what it is they have to get after, what it is that they have to correct. They're thinking about what I said to them, how I treated them, how I belittled them. And even if they were wrong in what it was that they did, that is the only thing that's in their mind, not what they screwed up, what I said to them and how I treated them. They'll fix the problem because they want to survive the environment, but they hate the hell out of me and they can't wait to get away from me. And to be honest, they're not going to give me their very best. So
Right.
if I want their very best and I want to build them into somebody that gets that and pulls that from somebody else later, because we're supposed to be force multipliers as leaders, then I need to figure that people part out. And
Yeah.
that's what I learned to do. I don't know if I mastered it. I won't say I mastered it. I just because I made mistakes all the way up to the end, but I did do my best, I think, to take care of people and make sure that people felt proud of working with me, uh, and that our experience together was a good one.
Yeah. Human connection is the most important thing to us as human beings.
Yeah.
And when you don't cultivate a connection, when you see somebody, or if a person senses that they're just a tool for the organization,
Yeah.
and they're not going to give you their best efforts. And there was something else that I thought of as you were talking that I wanted to mention. I thought it was worth capturing, but it just escaped me.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
You ever had somebody along those same lines just give you feedback, and they just came up to you and said,
That's what I was gonna. Yeah.
"Don't screw up. You're doing good. Don't screw up." That's your feedback. When I learned that as a master sergeant, I had a chief at the time look through my records, and they pointed out a bunch of things that I didn't have done and things that I needed to
Sure.
do. And so
Sure.
I became a big advocate of looking through people's records if they needed me to look through their records, or definitely if they were my folks. I looked at my master sergeants, my seniors, my NCOs. I want to see your records, see what's in them, and I did that for them because that was done for me. Have that not been done for me, I'm out of the Air Force a long time ago. I ain't talking to you. That ain't happening because I'm long gone by this time. But that happened for me, and because that happened for me, it gave me kind of a roadmap and I thought I was doing good. Firewall 5
Mm.
EPRs at the time. I'm like, what do you mean my records are jacked? What are you talking about? I got Firewall 5s. I was a fairly new master sergeant, had no idea that I was so far behind that I was shocked. And my feedbacks were always, keep on doing
You're good.
your job, like 2-second feedbacks. Keep on doing what you're doing. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So I felt used. I felt hurt, kind of like, nobody told me these things, right?
Yeah.
And so to your point, when you have those individuals that kind of nobody laid it out, it just was an expectation. If you want to make it to this level, you're going to have to knock these types of things out. And once I had that spelled out and laid out for me, I was like, wow. I felt like a tool though. Before, like, wow. So I was just being you. Just do your job. Don't screw up. Get out of my face.
Yeah.
But less than 5 individuals in my leadership, I'm talking master sergeant to chief, were people that said, hey man, I see something in you. Give me your stuff. Let me look at you. Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing good, but you need to knock these types of things out. Had I not had that, I would have never made chief. I wouldn't have made it. Yeah. I didn't make it by myself. I made it because some folks saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. And they said, hey, look, because of how you carry yourself and because of the things that you do and the way that you are, let us take a look at what it's going to take to get you to the next level.
Yeah, that's putting the people first approach. Yeah. I think you alluded to this earlier, that people may sense that that's kind of a weak leadership approach, but it's finding the balance between that. Doesn't mean that you're always, I think the indirect approach to leadership is probably the best and making those human connections, but that doesn't mean that you're never direct when you have to be.
True.
So it's important to remember that you put the person, but yeah, as a leader, you do have a responsibility to hold standards. And when somebody doesn't meet a standard, actually, that's your fault. That's on you to take accountability as the leader, the fire chief or whatever. Like if somebody made a mistake, that's my fault. Yeah. We need to show that person what the right way is. We need to define a policy, maybe that it doesn't exist, or what is the culture in my organization? Is there something that I said, did, or didn't say that set an expectation, set a culture where this person decided to make this decision? In some cases, listen, it's negligence, and we've seen that, but those are rare. And so I think for the people that may think that way, that, putting the people first and not the mission first is kind of a weakness, and you're a soft leader and all these different things. Absolutely not. And there are times where you do have to be a bit autocratic, so, but leadership is an art, and this stuff is incredibly complex. And I think anybody that's a leader understands that, but it's something that can be learned too. You can, and that's my opinion. I think you can learn some of these principles, you can learn ownership. You can tell yourself to take accountability as a leader, right? You can tell yourself to care about people and make a deliberate effort to do that. So, I think that those are just some important points.
Now, Matt, you bring up some good points. I think you're right. A lot of this can be learned. Abraham Lincoln, if you look at some of the things that he did as a leader and some of the ways he got after things, he opened the White House up so people could just walk in and just want to sit down with him, and people lined up in the hallways and sitting down in the White House like it's customer service, and he's available to talk to people about their issues. Like who? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but since him. But at the end of the day, he is known as one of, throughout history, as a very, very instrumental and effective leader. I mean, we can go back to the medieval times and pick apart, generals and different people who fought wars that were good leaders, and some of them were autocratic leaders. But at the end of the day, when we talk about this easy versus hard, weak versus strong, how hard is it? And when somebody screws up, you get in their face and yell at them. How difficult is that? That's supposed to be strength.
It's uncomfortable.
How difficult is it? I'm going to stand in front of you and go, hey, what's your problem? Hey, stupid. Hey, idiot, get it together. I better not have to talk to you again. That is very easy in my opinion, because that's emotional based. So I'm mad, I'm angry, I yell at you. That's easy. To be perfectly honest, I ain't trying to call nobody. I feel like it's a lack of control, lack of self-control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, emotional intelligence.
When I tell an airman who just got in trouble, so before you go, I want to make something clear. I better not ever have you come to my office for anything outside of doing something excellent from this point forward. You understand? The next time you are in my office, it better be because I'm about to fist bump you for something awesome that you did. Is that clear?
Yeah.
All right, you're dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? What was weak? What was strong? Question is, what was most effective? I could have sent the guy out of the room crying because of how I talked to him, or I could have sent him out the room with something in his head, planting a seed to let him know how I want him to carry himself when he walks out. I want you to be better versus you better not do it again or I'm going to kick you out of my Air Force so far and so fast that you won't know what hit you. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you bring up the loud emotional response versus the stoic, stern. And any of us who've been around long enough, we've all been chewed out. You know what I'm saying? It's part of the experience. But think about those times that you've been chewed out. Which hurts worse? The one where you're getting screamed at, or the one where somebody who you respect, has a calm demeanor, is sitting you down and like, hey, listen, I'm disappointed.
I'm telling you.
Heart drops. You know what I mean? To me, that's been the most effective for me. Like,
it makes you go back and look at yourself too, and you go back and go, I got to get my stuff.
You question everything. You question all of it. Like, what have I been doing?
Exactly. Versus you walk away from the guy that chewed you out, and the only thing, even when you go talk to other people, you're like, hey, what happened, man? Hell, well, damn, he talking to me like that, yelling at me, call me this, call me that. You ain't even thinking about what you did. All you thinking about is what the person said to you and how they treated you, right? So now you ain't got nothing to go back and, because you're trying to recover from the attack that you just got, right? You just got attacked. You're trying to let the dust settle and recover and get your manhood back or your woman.
Yeah.
You're trying to recover. You ain't thinking about your shortcomings, unless you're right. That person that you respected tells you, hey man, I'm disappointed. I'm sorry. I hate that we found ourselves in this position. I'm really disappointed at you. Or in you. And then you walk away from that. I don't ever want to have this conversation again. Right. Yeah.
That one hurt.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Chief, we've eclipsed that hour mark, but I want to take the opportunity to give you the chance to give people advice for success. So 30 years, Chief Master Sergeant, several bases. It seems like your transition into the civilian world has been successful thus far. You've cultivated this leadership approach that I think has been successful. What kind of advice, maybe one or two things, do you have for the listeners on how they can succeed in their careers?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing is this is it's your experience, right? So what do you want to get out of this experience? What kind of experience do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a good experience? Do you want it? I think everybody probably would answer that. So you have to keep the experience. Don't show up at a base and think that, all right, I'm here at this base and now it's all about me. No, this is about the entire experience, all of it. Are you going to go places outside the gate and get involved in the community? Are you going to meet people and get to know your neighbors, right? Maybe one day when you're out of town, that neighbor is going to look out for your house, because you got to know who they were, and vice versa. Maybe your mail's going to show up at their house and they're going to come knock on the door and go, hey, I got some of your mail, right? But if they don't like you, they ain't bringing nothing. They're going to throw it in the trash. But at the end of the day, what kind of person are you? Are you adding to the experience or are you taking away from it? Not just your experience, it's other people's experience too. So Matt, if we were stationed together, I'd be thinking about, hey, look, this is my experience and I want it to be a good one, but this is also Matt's experience and I don't want to take away from his experience. I should be adding to it. So always think about the experience and building a network with individuals that you can trust, being a strong part of somebody else's network. That's going to carry you far. You've heard the saying, your network is your net worth, but that all ties into the experience piece. I would also say kind of have an idea of where you want to go and how you want it to end. A recruiter who I was talking to and help mentoring, recruiters, some of them are out in no man's land and they don't always have a chief or somebody available to kind of talk to them. And I just happened to meet one who was helping one of my relatives get into the Air Force. And he reached out and asked me, hey, can I talk to you about, career stuff? And I was like, absolutely. So we talked And he asked me about what he should do. Which should I go this direction and CE by trade? Should I go back to CE, do this? And so I said, man, you're asking me which direction you should go. There's a fork in the road, or maybe there are different lanes and you don't know which lane to go down. I said, how about look at it this way? Where do you see yourself? Right. And so this road maybe you see yourself on the top of that hill up there, and none of these roads lead to the top of that hill. You probably have to go through now unpaved and uncharted territory to get to the top of that hill over there, because none of these roads you take are going to get you there. You're looking at these paths. Where do you see yourself 10 years down the line? So at the end of the day, I would say the road to success first starts with your goal and where it is that you see yourself. And if you see yourself as a chief master sergeant, then you start doing those things and talking to chief master sergeants, right? Some of us are talking to tech sergeants about what it is that we need to do to make chief. I'm sorry, you ain't going to get the answer there. They're going to tell you what they did to make tech. And that's important because you got to get to tech to make chief. I'm not saying don't talk to techs and masters, but if your goal is chief, you better have a chief in your hip pocket that you need. And maybe your goal is finish 20 and then go civilian. Or maybe your goal is knock out 4 and go civilian. The road to success, Matt, I would say to any of our fire dogs or anybody out there listening, first starts with you deciding where you're going. Otherwise, you're just in a vehicle driving anywhere and hoping that you figure out that some rest station is going to end up being where you're going to ultimately stop. Nobody stay in a rest station forever, right? So where's your destination? Where are you going on this journey? A lot of guys are going rest station to rest station. And some folks are going, "Ooh, this rest station is nice. I think I'm gonna stay here for a little while." No, you're not. It's like that guy that in the memes. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, it's where do you where do you
That's a funny
see
one.
yourself? If you want to go to
Yeah.
a certain destination, you get there, but it's gonna start with you making that decision.
Yeah. I love that. Great advice, Chief. One thing I've said on this podcast before, and I say to anybody who is willing to listen, is, I think I alluded to it early in the podcast. It's like, as far as like your willingness to want to stay in the fire service, stay in the military, you don't necessarily know. You don't have things figured out. And
True.
the same with life. And what I like to tell people is like, well, figure out an aim, and aim towards something, understanding that along that path, you're going to take detours. You're going to decide different. You're going to grow a family, right? Like you're going to move to different locations. Opportunities are going to be presented to you that you did not anticipate coming your way.
Yeah.
But it's important to still have an aim and to still every day kind of, and maybe it's professional development, maybe it's education, but, build those relationships with people within that aim that, build that relationship with people in the fire service, fire chiefs, if that's what you want to do, and hit those educational milestones. Like I have like for me, I like to use myself as an example. Like I aspire to be in public safety in some capacity, inside or outside the Department of Defense. Maybe that's in a fire department as a fire chief. Maybe that's an industry selling things to fire departments that need them, or providing courses or instruction to classes. But I have an aim to stay in public safety. So I'm doing those things that I think are going to contribute to that. So I always like to share that when the opportunity presents itself. But
I love it.
Excellent advice, Chief.
People get to change. You get to change. You get to decide, oh, you know what? I thought I was going to I wanted to do this, but now, I think I want to do this. You get to change course and decide, I don't want to go in this direction no more. But who's making that decision? The person is. You are making that choice for yourself and deciding, oh, you know what? You are the commander of your own ship. You are the CEO of you, right? And at the end of the day, you get to make those decisions when it comes to making course directions for your life. And sometimes that means you got to turn around and go back to start. Look at me, back at Scott, right? At the end of my journey. And at the end of the day, I think ultimately that's what it's about. It's about having a clear understanding of where you want to go. And if that changes and shifts, it's a deliberate change and shift based off of maybe new things that are going on in your life or new opportunities that presented themselves that weren't there, didn't exist at the time. You're 100% right, Matt. You're spot on with that, man. And I definitely appreciate that perspective.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for your time, Chief. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
your career up to this point, and the best of luck to you in your future endeavors. Hopefully we, stay connected on LinkedIn. I'd love to see
Yeah.
your progress on there. I'd love to see the things that you share, but thanks for taking the time to share some things with our audience and give you the opportunity with any final thoughts that you might have.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Matt. I remember when you guys came online and it was new, and oh my gosh, I just want to applaud you and the success of this podcast. This is an amazing thing that you're doing. Just having an opportunity to talk with our firefighters and our leaders in our business. So hats off, a big crisp salute to you. Did you find a co-host yet? You got a list of applicants here. Did you make a decision on who you need?
Yeah. We made a decision. We'll be announcing it soon.
Awesome.
And yes, hopefully we kind of targeted a very specific kind of person at a specific time in their career, so that there's a little bit of tenure left there. I'm in the twilight of mine, potentially within the active duty side of the house, so was kind of targeting a kind of a younger. But yeah, I'm excited about the future, and I appreciate that, Chief. And like I said earlier in the episode, just a student of history, and I think what an excellent opportunity podcasts present to archive conversations. Like you and I having this conversation today, just as long as those servers stay intact, 20 years from now, we can go back and listen to like, what were they talking about? Imagine if we had that opportunity now to go back into the 90s and listen to what, you know what I mean? Or even the 70s and Vietnam era or whatever the case. So that's what really motivates me to carry on and just capture stories like this and capture initiatives. So
kind of historic archive that had a conversation with Lewis F. Garland. What would that conversation have been like?
Imagine.
Right? Crazy.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
Oh my gosh.
Or some of these guys that are namesakes for some of our awards. What is it? Chief Sanders and some others. But just to hear what did they talk about? And so anyways. But I appreciate you, Chief.
Hats off to you. Thank you so much, man, for what you guys are doing and what you've done for our career field. And I wish you all the best in your future journey, man. And then we'll definitely be in touch, okay? Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the FireDawg Podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice. It's one of the best ways to help us reach more firefighters and leaders across the fire service. You can find more episodes like this on our website, firedawg.us, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at the FireDawg Podcast. That is the Fire DAWG Podcast. Sharing this episode with a friend, coworker, or someone in your firehouse helps these conversations reach the people who need them most. This is Matt Wilson with Chief Master Sergeant Retired Shanton Russell. Until next time, stay safe.